Craig Dowden, and I'm an executive coach, keynote speaker, and author of the forthcoming book, A Time to Lead, Mastering Yourself so you can master your world. I'm thrilled that you've decided to drop by and listen in on this amazing conversation that I had with my collaborator, Alan Mulally, former CEO of Ford and Boeing, and one of the most highly respected and regarded CEOs of all time. In preparation for our collaboration on A Time to Lead, we had an amazing conversation about how his working together management system fit beautifully within the leadership qualities that we cover in this book. And there are three parts to our conversation. In the first part, we will talk about Alan's incredible leadership journey through his time at Boeing and Ford, as well as a detailed examination of his working together management system. In the second part, we'll talk about my first book, Do Good to Lead Well, The Science and Practice of Positive Leadership. And Alan will share how the practices and principles embedded within his working together management system fit within the qualities that I spoke about in my first book. And at the end, we'll talk about A Time to Lead and how the 7 leadership qualities that we discuss, mindset, emotions, strengths, resilience, mastering receiving feedback, navigating difficult conversations, and authentic leadership also fit so powerfully within the working together management system. During our conversation, Alan will share his insights, his expertise, his experiences in terms of how to bring these leadership qualities to life within an extraordinary system of working together so that we can achieve tremendous results for ourselves, for our teams, and for the organizations we lead. I'm so happy that you're here, and I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as we have in having it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this amazing conversation this morning. My name is Craig Dowden, and it is my absolute pleasure and privilege to be sharing my conversation with one of the most globally recognized, respected, and accomplished CEOs of all time, Mr. Alan Mulally. And in terms of my background, I'm an executive coach and keynote speaker, and I'm passionate about the science and practice of leadership, team, and organizational excellence, and in particular, the translation of that science to practice. And why this conversation was so important to me and why I'm so privileged to be a part of this is that it's always around, so how do we take these great evidence-based insights and bring them to practice? And how do we exemplify when we do good to lead well, we get extraordinary results? So when Alan and I got an opportunity to connect and get to know each other, it was just this amazing synergy. I'm just so excited about all of the insights that he will share with you today. I'm a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and I also facilitate a series of mastermind groups. Now, to get to Alan Mulally. And good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Craig. I'm glad to be with you.
Well, I could spend so much time talking about Alan, and I want to set up the context to give you a sense of how amazing his career has been and who he is as an individual and how he's led. So he served as president and chief executive officer of the Ford Motor Company and as a member of Ford's board of directors from September 2006 to June 2014. He led Ford's transformation into one of the world's leading automobile companies and the #1 automobile brand in the United States. He guided Ford in working together on a compelling vision, comprehensive strategy, and implementation of the One Ford plan to deliver profitable growth for all of the company's stakeholders. Prior to joining Ford, Mulally served as executive vice president of the Boeing Company, president and CEO of Boeing Commercial Airplanes, and president of Boeing Information, Space, and Defense Systems. Throughout his career, Mulally has been recognized for his contributions, industry leadership, and service, including being named #3 on Fortune's World's Greatest Leaders, one of the 30 World's Best CEOs by Barron's Magazine, one of the world's most influential people by Time Magazine, Chief Executive of the Year by Chief Executive Magazine, and the Leader of the Future by the Frances Hesselbein Leadership Institute. He was also honored with the American Society for Quality's Medal for Excellence in Executive Leadership, the Automotive Executive of the Year, and the Thomas Edison Achievement Award. He's also a Museum of Flight Pathfinder and a member of the Automobile Hall of Fame. He previously served on President Obama's United States Export Council. He served as co-chairman of the Washington Competitiveness Council and has served on the advisory boards of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, the University of Washington, University of Kansas, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and the United States Air Force Scientific Advisory Board. He's also served as president of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and as chairman of the board of governors of the Aerospace Industries Association. He is a member of the United States National Academy of Engineering and a fellow of England's Royal Academy of Engineering. Mulally currently sits on the board of directors of Google, Carbon 3D, and the Mayo Clinic, and he holds a Bachelor and Master of Science degrees in Aeronautical and Astronautical Engineering from the University of Kansas, and a Master's in Management from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, where he was an Alfred P. Sloan Fellow. And what I have to say about Alan, and again, I can't do it justice, one of the things that strikes me most is around how he exemplifies all of the principles, practices, and management system, the working together philosophy. It's so powerful. And in this era where people talk about the importance of integrity and talk about the importance of authenticity, Alan lives it every single day. So such a privilege and honor to speak with you this morning, Alan.
Well, Craig, I really appreciate the introduction. And I think you probably could see me smiling when you told everybody that I was the number 3 best leader in the world. And of course, everybody always wonders, well, you know, are you okay with that, being number 3 and not number 1? And I just want you to know that the Pope was number 1. And so I am absolutely okay with being number 3, because like all of us, I'm still working my way to heaven.
That's amazing. Well, and this is such an amazing opportunity, such a wonderful conversation. And I love that we're going to be talking about how we can work together, the principles, the practices, the management system, and the leadership qualities that are embedded within them. So, and really grateful for your time. Well, to start, Alan, you are known for your leadership at Boeing and Ford. Please share with us your leadership and service journey.
Well, absolutely. And as an introduction to that, I would just like to share with everybody that this is really a pleasure for me and an honor to talk to you about it, because you have dedicated your life to understanding the leadership qualities of the future that are required to help us all work together for the greater good. And so this is a real pleasure to be here with you, and I look forward to our conversation. So let's start maybe when earlier in my life. And so I grew up in the Midwest, very modest means, but we had, my sisters and I had parents that absolutely loved us. And really we were pretty much brainwashed from day one, because every morning our mom or our dad would say to us, "Now remember what the purpose of life is." And I would say, "Yes, Mom, I remember. It's to love and be loved." And then she'd add in and said, "And I remember in that order, honey." "Oh, okay, thanks, Mom." Then the next day my dad would say, "Now remember, to serve is to live." "Thanks, Dad, that makes a lot of sense." Next day my mom would say, "It's very important to seek to understand before you seek to be understood." "Thanks, Mom." And then the next day another one that I like was that if you learn to work together with others, you're going to be able to make a big difference to the people of our world. And the last one I always loved, always remembered, was, "It's nice to be important, honey, but it's more important to be nice." So it was neat, because I was growing up near the University of Kansas. And of course, it had a tremendous relationship with all the universities around the world, and they attracted all these wonderful students. And my mom and dad would always invite them to our home for the different Thanksgiving and Christmases when they couldn't go home. And so I just couldn't get enough of all of their different perspectives and their ways of life and their beliefs and their values and their behaviors. And so that was a big influence on my life. So growing up, I was always interested, Craig, in math and physics and art, and also with that kind of encouragement from my parents, also working together to serve others. And I was highly motivated in early in college when President Kennedy got on the TV and said, we're all going to the moon. And it's going to be really a big deal. We're going to learn a lot about technology. We're going to learn a lot about ourselves. But what's most important is we're going to come up with ideas and thoughts that will improve our life on Earth by doing this. So this sounded fantastic with what I was interested in. And so I joined the Air Force and I learned to fly, and I was making good progress in the astronaut program. And then one day I was called in and they said, Dowden, you're doing great, but the last battery of tests that we've done on you, we found out that you have some color blindness, especially with shades of gray. And so if you remember at that time, the first landings on the moon were going to be manual. And so we couldn't do it automatically yet. And so clearly I needed to really see all those shades of gray. So they said, you can stay and go on a subsequent mission or lead a subsequent mission, or if you want to go back and finish your graduate school, we'll help you with that too. So I chose the latter, and I was very fortunate. And I switched over to engineering and aeronautical and astronautical engineering, as you pointed out, that my thesis advisor had just come from Boeing, and he was the head of aerodynamics at Boeing. So he had a lot of contract work with Boeing. And so he took me to Seattle from Kansas, and I saw all these phenomenal engineers and the products, and learned a lot about it. I had lots of questions about it. And I really realized very early that the airplanes, the commercial airplanes, were even more than an airplane. They were the first internet, because they were transporting people around the world. And what we all knew was that if you get to learn to meet each other and know each other, that you're going to find out that we have more in common than we're different. And then we can choose to work together for the greater good. So started my career out at Boeing and commercial airplanes, and I had the honor to serve on every Boeing airplane, on the design and the production and the support, including the 707, the 727. I like to go slow on this, Craig, because it's so fun. The 737, the 757, the 767, the 777, which I was asked to be the chief engineer, and then the program manager. And then as a CEO, I had a chance to launch the 787. And if you look at all of the airplanes that are flying today and all the seats in those airplanes, nearly 70% are in Boeing airplanes. So clearly, if it's not a Boeing airplane, you shouldn't be going. And so I love that. And I love commercial airplanes. And then Boeing, we purchased McDonnell Douglas and Rockwell. And they asked me to be the CEO of this new organization to integrate all those defense and space assets of Boeing and McDonnell Douglas and Rockwell to create the largest aerospace company in the world. It was such a thrill and such an honor to support all the women and men of the military and the Pentagon and our congressional leaders. And at the end of about 2 years, the Secretary of Defense at the time said it was the best integration job that he had ever seen, to pull all these assets together. So that was the space shuttle, the space station, all the fighters, the bombers, the helicopters, the launch vehicles, the satellites, the tankers, all these phenomenal assets. And so that was really neat. And I also then returned to commercial airplanes, and I didn't think I'd ever leave Boeing. It was just so neat and to serve. And then I got a call from Bill Ford. I'm going, Bill Ford, the great grandson of Henry Ford? And I knew I was in trouble, because the more he shared with me and the worse it got, the more I wanted to hear more about it. And so Bill is such a neat leader, and he shared with me what the situation was at Ford, and that Ford was in real trouble. And they had become a house of brands. He shared with me they had purchased Aston Martin, Jaguar, Land Rover, Volvo, Mazda, and clearly had become a house of brands. And no one really knew what the Ford, that beautiful Ford, looked like or who was anymore as a brand. And we were, I mean, although 80% of the total business was still with the Ford brand. Also, we had become very regionalized. And that was Henry Ford's original dream, so that he could not only provide great cars and trucks, but also he could be part of the economic fabric of the country and provide great jobs and great careers. Also, Ford had become a fast follower on technology. And they were also losing money on all the brands and all the vehicles because their cost structure was not competitive, especially with the agreements that we had with all of our union friends. And so, and also probably the biggest one was that with that regionalization, that there was no synergy in Ford with all of our people working together, and we were competing against the best global companies in the entire world. And so you're probably wondering, and then he said, now I'd like you to come and join me, and I'm going to give up being the CEO. And also, if you think you need to be the chairman and the CEO, I'll be happy to do that, because we really need your service. And I said to Bill, if I come, I would only come if you stayed as the chairman, because you're the titular head of the Ford family. You have all this history. It's going to be a partnership. The things we're going to have to do are going to be important and significant. And so I think it's going to be that all-time working relationship. And he said, well, absolutely. And so I originally declined, and then I got off the phone as I was declining, and 2 of the 5 kids were listening to this, and they really wanted to go to Ford because, you know, they knew everything about the airplanes and knew everything about all our wonderful customers around the world. They just wanted to drive a new, Ford Mustang Shelby. And so they walk in the room, and one of them says to me, Craig, so we're going to Ford now, aren't we, Dad? And I said, yep, we're going to Ford. And as we all know, we're all going to go through our life, and we're going to have opportunities, and we're going to think about it and look at it from different points of view. And at the end of the day, we need to make a decision. And my advice when people ask me about this is listen to what you're thinking about. How do you feel about it? And then say it out loud, but listen to what you say. And so I said it, and I knew that we were going to Ford. And I think the reason is that I felt like I was being asked to serve a second American and global icon. And as we all know, Ford and Boeing are the arsenal of democracy, and the reason we're free, and a lot of other countries are free around the world going through World War II. So I went to Ford. I took my working together principles and practices, my 2 pieces of paper we're going to share today, and everybody gathered around them. They wanted to understand them. We started to implement them, and we were on our way. And so we went from losing $17 billion in that first year to coming back to profitability, making it through the economic crisis with GM and Chrysler going bankrupt, not asking for precious taxpayer money because we were well on our way. We had taken out a small home improvement loan of $23.5 billion, and to not only restructure the business to get back to profitability, but also to invest simultaneously in all the new products and services that you see today. And we generated 7, 8, 9, 10, and $11 billion of profit to continue to grow and serve all of our customers around the world. We became the #1 brand in the United States, number 1, number 2 in all the European countries, fastest growing in Asia. Also, we repaid all of the loan that we borrowed, and our stock price went from an intraday low of $1.01 to appreciating approximately 1,837% by the time that I left 8 years later. But maybe the most important performance measure of all the stakeholders was the employee satisfaction and their engagement. And as we know, the average for satisfaction from the employees when they look at the company, the leaders, what they're doing, and are they appreciated and making a difference, is around 40%. And that's small, medium, and large companies worldwide. And also the engagement is down around 30%. So you can imagine that most of the employees are coming to work for a salary, but not to build a cathedral. And so you can imagine what the opportunity is for all of them to be part of the plan, to understand the plan, to be contributing and being appreciated. And when I left 8 years later, our employee satisfaction was at 92%, the highest of any company at that time. And so what you have dedicated your life to, and what we're going to talk about today, is this fundamental creation of not only smart organizations, but also healthy organizations that are skilled and motivated. And so it's a pleasure to be able to have this conversation with you and share it with everybody today.
Well, and thank you. What an amazing journey and story. And one thing that I think just so exemplifies who you are, Alan, is that when Bill Ford offered to give up the chairmanship, and then you said, no, I want to come with you. I think that, like, I wonder just myself, how many people, oh, of course, yeah, I will take this. And it just shows, this is one of the things that I so admire and feel so powerful about what, not only what you've accomplished, how you've accomplished it, that you said, no, this is how. Do you mind sharing like what that thought process was like? Because I'm sure for some they would, no, I'll take that too. I just think that's amazing.
Well, it was very easy decision for me to make, Craig, because I've always been about service and the bigger contribution that we can make by working together. Again, heavily influenced by my parents. And so the minute that Bill started sharing the situation with me, then I did my homework and my due diligence. And I realized it was exactly what Bill said it was. He was being so honest, so transparent, he's so authentic. And it was a huge issue to the situation that they were in. So I knew that if we were going to bring our working together principles and practices there, that having Bill would be one of the best assets that we could have, because he knew the history. He believes in the company. He has been investing in it long term, and because they're the owners and they believe in it and they're going to continue to invest. So I knew that this would be a phenomenal partnership to work with Bill, and he exceeded my expectations. We had so much fun. We talked almost every day. Our offices were right across the hall from each other, and he's doing great. Continue to lead Ford. So yeah, it was an easy decision because I'm always looking for how do you include everybody and all the talent so that we can accomplish our compelling vision.
Well, and I love that, and thank you for sharing that additional detail. And yes, you are also very well known for your working together principles, practices, and management systems. So can you please share these with us?
Well, absolutely. And I still make up, as an engineer, Craig, I still make up all my own charts. So we have 2 slides, and if you could show our principles and practices. Here's our subject for today, is that we're going to really focus on the strategic and the operational aspects, but also really focus on the working together principles and practices. So here we go. And I'm going to share a few words about each one, and also show you how they all fit together to deliver creating value for all those stakeholders. So the first one, people first, love them up. And that's surrogate for these are wonderful human beings. They're talented. And on a new airplane program, we have nearly 500 to 600,000 people that are working on an airplane, on a design. And an average airplane has around 4 million parts. And you think about the quality, the fuel efficiency, the safety, the systems engineering, the reliability, maintainability, very sophisticated problems. And then you look at the safety of carrying 200 to 300 people halfway around the world, probably the most sophisticated products in the world. So to have all of these talented people committing their lives to creating a new airplane is phenomenal. And so it's just so important that they are treated with such respect, and they're appreciated, and they know everything about the plan. They know what the status is, and they know the areas need special attention, which is probably the most respectful thing you could ever do with all the employees. So include everybody, our employees, all the functions, all the disciplines, all of our suppliers, our customers themselves, the traveling public, all of the airlines, all the governments around the world that we work with to certify the airplanes, and all the communities in which we operate, where the airplanes are going to be either designed and manufactured or also operated at it. So including everybody, all the stakeholders. A compelling vision, comprehensive strategy, and relentless implementation. For every airplane, there's a compelling vision for that airplane. Is it going to be short range, long range? Is it going to go point to point, polar routes? And so what is that vision? And then also, what's the comprehensive strategy for achieving that? And not only the technical strategy, but also the working together strategy, the partnership strategy, the culture that we're going to create, how we're going to include everybody. So a very comprehensive strategy. And then also the relentless implementation plan is what has gotten a lot of press, Craig, over the years, because that's the business plan review, where every week, usually start around 6:30 or 7 Seattle time, and link all of the participants around the world, from Australia to Asia, Middle East, North and South America. And then we go through the vision, the strategy, the plan, what the status is, and the areas need special attention. So it's really clear. It's really important to have clear performance goals that everybody knows. Also to have one plan that everybody knows. And most companies have a lot of plans, and everybody's wondering what the plan is. And when you're going to deliver this kind of performance on schedule, 4.5 to 5 years in the future, and meet all of the requirements, everybody has to know the plan and know the status and be helping each other. So facts and data are really important, and we care what people think. We want to know what they think, but we also want to know what the facts and data are they're looking at to draw those conclusions. And the reason is that we are expecting the unexpected, because this is a creation, this is an innovation, and it's not going to go exactly per the plan. So we expect the unexpected, and we're going to expect to deal with it by working together. And so what are the facts and data, so that when we decide, when we do have an issue and we're going to work on it together, we want to be able to move forward with confidence, knowing that we know what the facts and data are. So you go over on the right-hand side, everyone knows the plan, they know the status, they know the areas need special attention. Really? You're going to share everything with everybody, including all the technical issues, including all the financial issues? Yes, and so many leaders, they find this an embarrassment if things are not going exactly right. Well, we are expecting the unexpected, because this is an invention, an innovation. And so we actually, when we meet in our business plan review with the entire team, all the team members are there. We've included all the disciplines: engineering, manufacturing, procurement, the attorneys, the communications people, everybody. And every person, as we go through the business plan review, shares their portion of this, of supporting the strategy and the plan, and they actually color code themselves how's it going on their portion of the plan. So green on the chart will say that element of the plan is on schedule. A yellow is they have an issue with an element of the plan, but they have a solution. And red means they have a new issue, but they don't have a solution yet. And we call those gems. They're gems. It's like, thank you for sharing. Thank you. Because if you don't, you can't manage a secret. And if you don't have an environment where people feel comfortable and safe to be able to share what's really going on, then you're not going to be able to work together to turn the reds to yellows to greens. So you can see the attitudes and the behaviors. Propose a plan, positive, find a way attitude. Whenever I think of this one, Craig, I always think of a Henry Ford quote where he said one time, if you think you can, or you think you can't, you're probably right. And so this positive, can do, find a way attitude, it doesn't mean that you don't deal with the reality of the situation is. Absolutely. You want to know those reds and yellows, but also means that you're going to have a positive, find a way, propose a plan way of working together to turn the reds, yellows, and greens. Now you can listen, look at the very complicated way we're going to treat each other, respect each other, listen to each other, help each other, appreciate each other. So you don't see a lot of very complicated value or belief words in here, because it'd be arrogant to think of all the people that are involved that have come together at Boeing and Ford to create these phenomenal products, to understand everything they've been through in their lives to get to this place, what their values and beliefs and stuff. What I know is that if you can see the behaviors and you agree to these behaviors on how we're going to treat each other, the people will gradually move into the light, away from Grendel's mother and the extended family down there in the swamp. And because it's so comfortable and it's so fun and it's so high performance, and the values and the beliefs will gradually follow right along of that same place to deliver these behaviors consistently. Emotional resilience, that must look very familiar to you. There's two of your leadership qualities right there together, emotions and resilience. And that's really important because we know we're going to run into issues. We know we're going to deal with it. And so it's not so much emotional resilience meaning that you have to come back from a setback. It means you have the emotional resilience as a positive thing, that we're going to figure this out. And if we know what the situation is, then we're going to work together to turn the reds, the yellows, and greens. And that's what we need to spend our attention and our energy on. And so how do you do that? Trust the process. Trust the process of working together. Go right back up to the top. Make sure everybody's included. Make sure you're looking at the facts and data, and that you have a process and a set of meetings that you can work together to turn the reds to yellows to greens. So trust the process of working together. Have fun. Enjoy the journey and each other. You know, Craig, I still every day wake up and I say, thank you, thank you, thank you for the honor to serve two American and global icons and all the people of our world with the very best cars and trucks and airplanes and safe and efficient transportation. And also, every day I say thank you to all the talented people I've had a chance to work with and serve with. And so one corollary to this, though, Craig, is never a joke, never humor at anybody else's expense. And the reason is it's never funny, and people will go along to get along. But what happens in the working together culture is that if people are concerned that they're going to be the brunt of a joke or be made fun of, it's going to make them think about whether they want to share what the real situation is, if they're going to be might be a victim by doing that. And we need their insights, we need their authenticity, we need their transparency. And so we need an environment that absolutely treasures the way we treat each other and these behaviors, in addition to the process of working together. Well, a couple more things on the chart. PGA. So this whole idea of working together and skilled and motivated teams and the management system is to deliver creating value for all the stakeholders. And I'd always use a very simple PGA, which doesn't stand for Professional Golf Association. It stands for profitable growth for all. And we all know that if you're not profitably growing, that you're dying as an institution, and you can't make it okay for all of the stakeholders. So reasonable returns and profitable growth is absolutely key to business, and all meaning all the stakeholders, so that everybody is benefiting. And so we have measures for all the stakeholders, the employees, the suppliers, the investors, the bankers, the airlines. And so our goal collectively is to create value for everybody by profitably growing. And the neat thing about the profitable growth is that profits equal revenue times margins. So great companies are focused on developing products and services that people want and they value, meaning they'll pay for them, and simultaneously improve the margins and their efficiency every year. And so by working on the revenue and the margins, say at least 7% compounded growth rate each year on both, then 107 times 107 is 1.15. The profits and cash flow will follow that. the stock price will follow that, and all of the stakeholders are participating, and they're going to get the value of working together. Mm-hmm. Now, the last thing on the principles and practices chart, Craig, is my airplane, and I'm going to bring it up now because everybody will wonder why it's there. And so that's my airplane, and as an airplane designer, I love my airplane. And wherever I was presenting the airplanes at Boeing to the customers or the suppliers or whatever else, I would finish my part of the presentation, and then I'd sit down and I would draw my airplane, and then I'd write the equations of motion on it, around it, and enjoy myself technically. So one time I was in Guangzhou, China, and I was at China Southern Airlines, and we were finishing our conversation about them purchasing $20 billion worth of 777 airplanes. And so we had all the lawyers and the contracts people and me. And so I finished my review of the airplane, and I sat down and I drew my airplane. And the chairman of China Southern was sitting across the table from me, and he stops the meeting. And he said, "Mr. Mulally, that's your chop, that's your focus, that's your being, that's who you are." And I said, "Well, yes, sir, that's true. I love helping design the best products and services in the world so you can move people around the world safely and efficiently." I said, "What do you think?" And I thought he'd say something about my airplane, but he says, "Well, I think this is the biggest decision we're ever going to make for our company on buying your airplanes, and you're the chief designer, and so I'd like you to sign that contract, that $20 billion contract with that airplane, and your signature on it." So I turned around to the lawyers, Craig, and I said, "So what do y'all think?" And they said, "Well, Ms. Mulally, you can't sign a $20 billion contract with a doodle of an airplane." So I turned around to the chairman, and I said, "What do you think now?" And he said, "Well, I'm only going to sign this contract if you'll sign it with your airplane." So I turned around to the contracts and lawyers people, and I said, "What do you think?" And they said, "You know, Mr. Mulally, we really like your airplane." And ever since then, Craig, it's on golf balls, it's on T-shirts, it's everywhere around the world. And the kids even sent me a screenshot of one that they saw on eBay, and it was selling that the golf ball with my signature on it was selling for $139. So I wish I would have saved more of my golf balls with my airplane on it in case this review with you didn't work out so well. So anyway, those are the fundamental principles and practices of the working together management system. And to the second part of your question, in the management system, if you can bring up the second chart now. Okay, now here is the management system, and this is how we manage the organization and with all of the stakeholders using those principles, making those principles and practices come alive. So you can see there's 5 elements of the management system. The first one are the principles and practices, which really capture the behaviors and how we're going to treat each other and how we're going to really focus on a compelling vision, strategy, and a plan to deliver that creating value roadmap. And so the next one is the governance process. And the governance process includes the board of directors, all of the stakeholders that are associated with the company, the leadership team itself, the creating value roadmap, which we're going to talk about, that is the roadmap for us creating the value. Also the business plan review, where we review every week the status of the creating value roadmap. And then also the special attention meetings, which we run one a month, one on strategy, one on products and services, one on the production, and the other one on everything about people. So we do our business plan review, and then following that, we'll have one of the special attention meetings. So there's the mechanism where we look at all the yellows and the reds, and then we go to special attention to work on them, meet together, all of us, and then come up with solutions, and then to turn the reds to yellows to greens. So that's the governance process. And we never miss a meeting because that reliability and that discipline is really, really important. Then the leader and the leadership team. And this is a newsflash, that the leadership team is really important. whether it's a for-profit business or a nonprofit, whatever the organization is, it's really important. And they have some unique contributions that only they can make, that they can't delegate to anybody else. So you can see the essence of them down the right-hand side. And we'll talk about more about this as you wish when we talk about the leadership qualities. But these are all leadership qualities. They cover who you are as a leader, and they also cover what you do and how you do it. So you can see the inclusion of all the stakeholders, moving from command and control to coaching and facilitating, including everybody, having a cohesive leadership team, the diversity with a big D. I mean, think about those 5 or 6 thousand people around the world. This is the all-time wonderful celebrating and capturing the value of diversity. Leading with humility, love, service, courage, discipline, resilience, civility, and authenticity. Because again, this is about creating that culture that is high performance, and it's also smart, it's also safe, it's healthy, and it's a working together culture. So the next one is really big, and that's a unique responsibility of the leader and the leadership team, and the quality of holding yourself responsible and accountable for the working together system that we're talking about. And that includes both the process of working together, the meetings that we do and how we make decisions that we've described, but also the behaviors, the expected behaviors that we all commit to, with zero tolerance for violating either one of them. Or we need to have a conversation, because we need to move forward together with this commitment to the process and the behaviors. And of course, that PGA, the middle word, was growth. And so not only are we growing the business, but we're all growing individually and as a team. And so we use not only stakeholder-centered leadership, but we also use stakeholder-centered coaching, which was pioneered by Marshall Goldsmith, where you use the stakeholders and their input and their thoughts about you and how you can continually improve your service individually and collectively. And we actually do that for the entire team. We share those results with each other so that all of us can help each other continually grow in our leadership qualities, which we're going to talk a lot about. And then the next one is the creating value roadmap. And you can see we go about 5 years out, and on all of the performance measures, the financial measures, the customer satisfaction, the employee satisfaction measures for all of the stakeholders. And we go out 5 years, because if you discount that back, that's about 80% of the value of the organization. And our goal is, after we accomplish the first bar there in the first year, that we add another bar 5 years out, where that increases that 5 to 7 to 10% a year. And so we're always looking throughout the year on what the opportunities are and what also are the risks, so that we can mitigate the risks, capture the opportunities, and then continually grow the business. Now, it's not always a straight line, because sometimes you're going to be making bigger investments, but we always have an idea of what it's going to look like to grow by making the investments today. And we always have a view of not only the near term, but always the longer term. Mm-hmm. And the place where we do that is the next one, and that's the business plan review. So that's the weekly review. Everybody starts out with their business environment. Now, can you imagine this, Craig? You're all there, all the disciplines are there, all your stakeholders are there, and each one of them starts out with a 1 page that updates their view of the world. And that means the economies around the world, the demographics, the technology, the competition, everything about the world. And so we actually are incorporating change and everything that's going around into the management system. So what can we do to mitigate the risk, and what can we do to capture the opportunities to profitably grow the business? So we review the vision, the strategy, and the plan, then the status and the forecast against the plan, the color coding, the special attention that we're involved with, and then also the better plan. Because if we have a red or yellow or green, we're going to work that together, but sometimes it needs a different solution. So that might even change the plan, but it'll always be a better plan to deliver our vision and strategy going forward. And that's why working together always works, because you deal with the reality until you have a solution one way or the other, always keeping in mind that compelling vision, what you're trying to accomplish. So you can see that it all starts with those principles and practices, which are the operating process of the whole system here. and the expected behaviors to deliver that creating value for all. And so this is the culture. This is what we do. This is why we do it. And this is how we do it. So you can imagine why we're here today, because you've dedicated your life to understanding the leadership qualities that are required and needed going forward. And we have a system and a process and a management system that actually enhances and enables those qualities to occur, and for all of the leaders to keep continuing to improve their performance and their leadership qualities. So that's our management system, and I look forward to your questions about it, especially about the leadership qualities.
Well, and thank you. And I have to say, and just absolutely love everything you shared, Alan. And I'm excited and looking forward to this conversation, and really appreciate your acknowledgments around the leadership qualities. And I feel like really privileged to be able to talk to you about those qualities that I wrote about in Do Good to Lead Well, and in my forthcoming book, A Time to Lead. And to share openly, I want to thank you, because and you've exemplified what I love. And I shared this at the beginning about how you live and breathe working together. We've had that working together moment as you were talking to me about the different elements that I wrote about in my first book and then in my forthcoming book. And you gently suggested, I love how you framed it, that I would consider calling them qualities, leadership qualities. And it just was such a powerful moment for me, and something that I am definitely going to do moving forward. And so these are the 13 qualities that certainly resonate and certainly are essential for positive leadership, and something that I've been very passionate about speaking about and coaching. And so looking at these 13 leadership qualities, Alan, how important do you think they are for your working together management system?
Well, they're foundational, Craig. They when I first read Do Good to Lead Well, you can imagine with what we've talked about so far, and to see self-awareness and civility and how you treat each other, and are you respecting the dignity of every participant, and are you open to understanding with humility, and focus on the positive. Not that you don't look at the negative or the problems, but we're going to focus on turning the reds to yellows to greens. The meaning and purpose, that compelling vision, Boeing and Ford, safe and efficient transportation, the empathy, understanding where people are coming from, seeking to understand before you seek to be understood. Then look at the mindset. I mean, do you have a growth mindset, and your emotions, and how do you maintain that resiliency when you're running into reds and yellows? The building on your talents and your strengths individually and collectively, and the whole thing about working together is feedback, constant feedback every week, which is great. So it's not like a negative thing. It's like you're getting personal feedback, you're getting feedback about how it's going on your contribution to the plan. The difficult conversations we're going to talk about they're not really difficult when you have been really clear. Everybody thinks they're difficult because they haven't come together on what the expected behaviors are. But when you have the expected behaviors, and you can look at the behaviors, and you can look at what people are doing, and you can have a nice conversation about, which is not difficult anymore. It's probably the biggest contribution you're going to make. And then you've mentioned this before, that authentic leadership and the bringing together about your values and your beliefs and your behaviors, which is what everybody's going to see, and that really are aligned. And then you are a real person, and everybody's going to understand that those three things are aligned. So I just think you've done a phenomenal job of capturing these leadership qualities. And one thing additional that I'd like to say is, as we go through this, let's all keep thinking about the synergy between these. It's unbelievable, because every one of these things, when you're using the working in the management system, you are touching all of those, and they're all supporting and enabling each other. And then think of the fact that everybody's at the table, and all of them have different strengths on each one of these. So now you have all those strengths being brought to bear day in and day out every week. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's really great and what I've loved so much about our conversations, and appreciate you that extraordinary synergy. It's around the being and doing. So who we need to
Yes.
be as a leader and what we need to do and that's been something that I've been so passionate about in terms of, so how do we bring these things to life and how do we live them every single day? And I touched on this earlier, Alan, because you have accomplished so much with your working together principles, practices, and management system. And so I'm curious, so building on that, how did you and your leadership team go about incorporating and mastering these 13 leadership qualities?
Well, we did it with that, with the working together management system, those 5 elements, and especially the leadership team. Because when we look at those words, and maybe we can show that one more time, Craig, the management system.
Sure.
Oh, wow, you are so good. Okay, so take a look. Let's all take a look at that leadership team. And to your point, uh, you've included everybody. You are respecting each other. You're facilitating your coaching to facilitate all these conversations. Also, you're leading with humility, love, service, and all the rest of the leadership qualities that you described are all there. And so you're meeting every week. You're holding each other accountable to operate this way. And so very quickly, and also you have an improvement plan and with your learning, lifelong learning and continuous improvement. And so it didn't take very long. When I went to Ford, for example, within 2 or 3 months, we were living this environment. And we had a few people that it didn't work for them, and we can talk about that later with your additional questions. But everybody gets a chance to choose. Are they committed to this or not? And we have to make it okay. If they don't want to, that just means they're going to be moving on, because this is what we need to do to have a smart and a healthy organization that creates this value together. So I think just absolutely holding ourselves accountable and responsible. And another thing about this, Craig, is you can't delegate it. This is not something you can delegate. I've watched leaders say, okay, the human resources leader, they'll take care of everything about people. Really? I don't think so. They are a really important leader, the human resources leader. But that leadership team and that leader need to know that their unique responsibility, the only one that can do this, it starts with the leader and the leadership team. Because you can write down anything you want on a piece of paper. But if you're not living this, to your point, and being it and doing it, then everybody knows. And they're going to know that's really not the culture. So this is what your question and this answer are the essence of designing this culture and then nurturing this culture going forward.
Well, I love your point about not delegating it. And also, to me, what I think is so powerful about it as well, as you shared, Alan, is that, and if it's not the right fit, well, then, hey, you're still awesome. And you're just, we can find you a place elsewhere. So I think that's such a,
So with respect to that, go back to the principles and practices chart, Craig. Okay, look at the first one. We still love you.
right.
We still love you. You're a human being. You're a creature of God, whatever your religious affiliation is. And so we still respect you. We wish you the very best. If you want to move in this direction, we'll get you a coach, we'll help you. But we absolutely respect you and we wish you the very best, or we're gonna love to help you move in this direction with us.
And what I love, and it's great that we're talking about this because it was something I wanted to highlight, the hearts that are throughout the principles and practices, right? Like, where do you see that on a chart? And it's so powerful, and it encapsulates everything that you talk about and everything around the working together principles, practices, and management
And
system.
Craig, look at the heart around the PGA.
Yes.
We're creating value for everybody, and that's love.
Absolutely, love for everyone. So I
For
think
everyone.
that's so amazing, and I'm really excited because I know you wanted to do a deeper dive into each of these 13 leadership qualities, and you touched on self-awareness a little earlier, Alan. So I would love to hear your thoughts on self-awareness and how it relates to being an effective leader, as well as its role within your working together principles, practices, and management system.
Absolutely. So if we can go to the, let's go to the management system chart. So the way you're asking this is really important, Craig, because this is not something that somebody does by themselves. Because the whole idea of self-awareness, as we all know, is that you have a really good view from your view of yourself, but also that is lined up with other people's view of you. And it gets back to some of your other leadership qualities. You need feedback for that, and you need to be open to that. And so that takes the humility part. It takes the working together part. It takes the feedback part. And so since we have now said that's the way we're going to operate, then you can imagine how everybody is working on their self-awareness. It's like you can't escape it. You're sitting in a meeting every week and you're looking at the eyes of your colleagues, and they're telling you whether, what they think about the way you're saying it and how you're saying it. And so, and then everybody has their card with those principles and practices on it. And they're looking at the card, and they're looking at you. And so what happens is they'll move in that direction very quickly. And what I found is that 80 to 85% of all the people, no matter what their background is, no matter what the things we can't see, but their values and their beliefs, but what we can see are those behaviors, they move into the light and they start operating this way. And you can imagine how fast their self-awareness goes up, which is absolutely a key to them being successful and all of us being successful. That makes sense?
Absolutely. Well, and I love that. And I love that you highlighted, Alan, about you can't do it by yourself, because we all, in the psychology, in the research, we all have self-serving bias. So I can't help but think that I'm having an impact that I think I'm having. And then, as you say, you can't escape it. You want to get all of that feedback from people around you to align.
And that's the process. That's the system. So you don't have to wonder when you're going to get that. You know every meeting that you're going to. And the other thing that I always remind everybody about is, when you violate one of these management leadership qualities, just say you're sorry. And you went after somebody, or you were short, or you didn't stay engaged and in the present. Just say you're sorry and start again. And boy, the minute that you do that, think about what that means to authenticity. Whew. I mean, you're a real person now.
Absolutely. Well, and maybe a beautiful bridge, because I know civility is very important to you and it's part of the principles and practices. So I'd love to get your take on, so what role does civility have in terms of leadership effectiveness, and again, within your working together management system?
Well, for the answer for this one, let's just stay right here on this chart, because you have done something here that is pretty powerful. Civility, and right below it, humility. Really? I wonder if they're related. So maybe let's just talk a little bit about that humility too at the same time. So humility, a sense that you believe and respect others' dignity as human beings. And now you think about how you're going to treat them. Oh, civility. I think that would be really high on the list. You're going to respect them. You're going to be there for them. You're going to talk to them in a neat way. You're always going to have their dignity at heart. You're going to listen more than you talk. You're going to seek to understand more than you seek to be understood. So this civility, and we know how this feels today, the way people go after each other has nothing to do with creating an environment where you're going to be able to work together. Because if you can't feel comfortable, like the no jokes at anybody else's expense, then you're not going to be able to bring your full self. So I think the civility, and also it's so easy. See, this is all stuff you can see again. You can see it. So can you imagine it being in a working together environment and you're in the business plan review and somebody goes after somebody in an uncivil way? I mean, I just stopped the meeting. We all look at you. Can you imagine that? Let's say you're on your phone, you're on your computer, you're not engaged. We just stop and look at you.
Right. Yeah.
And so this is not a warm fuzzy thing.
Right.
This is treating people, and the way you say it, the way you look at them, the way you're engaged. Are you treating their dignity, and are you creating this environment of this working together? So I think that it's just both the civility and the humility are just absolutely foundational.
Well, and I love how you're bridging those two leadership qualities together, Alan, and about how they're so complementary. I love how you highlighted the power of apology. And I think when we start to think about how these play out, one of the really core ideas that you hear time and time again is around psychological safety. And it just seems like, I mean, that is, you almost have a parallel term for working together, is psychological safety and how you manage. And I love that you say it's not fuzzy. It's, hey, we can tackle things in real time. So I just love that about the working together system.
Greg, to build on your comment, just a couple of more thoughts about humility. Everybody, this is, I think, just pretty much common everywhere. When you meet a new leader, a new member of your team, when you meet anybody, there's three things that we have found that people want to know about this new leader. One is, who are you? I mean, who are you really? And that has to do with the B part of what you described about each of us. And what do you care about? What are your values? What are your beliefs? But as long as they're turned into behaviors. And so who are you? And are you here for you? Are you here for the organization? And it's hard to hide that. And so they're going to ask you the question, they're going to listen to what you say, and then they're going to watch. So the second question they want to know of a leader is, where are we going? I mean, where are we going? You're our leader, and it's okay. We know leadership's important, but where are we going? That compelling vision, the comprehensive strategy, the relentless implementation. And so some people think that they don't have a responsibility to share that. Well, think about this whole conversation. If you go to the management system again, please. I love it. You have another occupation that you could follow. So you look down that right-hand side on the leadership team, and that responsibility, that accountability for doing this. I mean, that is the all-time, here's where we're going. And look at the creating value roadmap. There's the actual elements of how we're going to get there. And then you add in the business plan review is going to status that. So not only where are we going, but how's it going? And so that's the second question. And you're going to share it with everybody. Talk about feeling part of the team. And the third one is, when you meet a new person in your life, from the day you connect with your eyes, your question is, do you see me? Do you see me? And we know when somebody sees us, or we're just a factor of production, or the all-time is that you say hello to somebody and they just keep moving while they shake your hand and they never look at you. So 3 questions. Who are you? We're thinking of, and they're all in our leadership qualities, Craig's and Alan's together. Who are you? Where are we going? And do you see me? And when you have a system, a set of meetings and behaviors, you don't have to wonder about that, because it's gonna make it visible to everybody.
So powerful. Well, and this is a beautiful bridge to the next quality, the leadership quality that we're speaking about today, and that's focusing on the positive. And I loved how you talked about earlier, it's not all fluffy and it's not all about great new we can deal with. So I'd love to get your take on focusing on the positive and how that fits within the working together practices, principles, and management system.
Well, if we can go to back to the principles and practices, and then let's look over there at propose a plan, positive, find a way, attitude. When I first read your first book, one thing that you brought out that I thought was very important and very unique was the fact that it's not about positive, meaning that you're not dealing with the reality.
Mhm.
The most important thing is to deal with reality, not the way the situation you'd want it to be, or you hoped it would be. What is the situation? And you can see when you're doing something like creating airplanes and cars and stuff, I mean, you have to know what that reality is, because if you don't know the reds and the yellows, you can't turn them to green. And same way with all the rest of the aspects of the business. And so positive means it's positive to know what the issues are. It's not a negative thing. We don't even use the word negative. I mean, it's like I remember the first time that the leadership team at Ford was trying to decide whether they're going to trust me on this color coding. And so we got the meeting started, the business plan review. We had our 300 charts. We had teams all around the round table at Thunderbird Room and in the world headquarters in Dearborn. And they're becoming cohesive. They're working together. And all 300 charts were green. They're green. And I had shared with them through the finance leader on the team there that we told them for the first time that we we're going to lose $17 billion this year. And so I stopped the meeting a couple of times and I said, is there any of you have a red item? I mean, we're losing $17 billion. Maybe one or two things are not going well. And of course, the eye contact goes down to the floor. And because everybody's scared to death, because when people brought up a red before, and most companies are still this way, you never bring up an issue unless you have a solution. So that means the whole organization is managing a secret. Right. And so, so we went along a couple more weeks, only had one red item because he took the person had the courage to share that he was shutting down the operation because they had a technical issue, and everybody's surprised that he was still there the following week. And so a few weeks went by, turned to yellow, then it turned to green, and all of the vehicles started flowing around the world. And the leader that shared the first red item was still there, sitting right next to me. Mm. So the next week, guess what the colors of the chart look like, right? They look like a rainbow. Now, the reason they'll have a lot of green, yellow, and red is that there's always lots of great things that are going on in any company. And so you don't want to just celebrate the red that you find out, but you want to celebrate the green, the yellow, because that's just as exciting. And it also allows you to have the comfort and the confidence that you're working on the ones that need special attention, but you're also paying attention to all the rest of it too. So it's just really, it's really, really important management quality. So important.
Well, and what I love, and it's the business plan review is such a powerful process, and you've talked about how effective it is and the results that it obtains. And to me, what I love about, and you discussed the synergy earlier on, and focusing on the positive, I love how the reds are framed as gems. Is that not a beautiful, right? To me, I'm like, because people can, and I love that you just shared managing a secret. So it's a gem. It's something, hey, we've got this. Okay.
So the first time you brought it up, I clapped. They told me later that they thought that was a sign. The two large doors in the back of the Thunderbird Room, the world headquarters, were going to open up. Two large human beings were going to come in and extract Mark out of the meeting. And the doors didn't open. Right. I said, thank you. Thank you. That is great visibility. Yes. Turned around to the team. Any thoughts on how we can help? 2 or 3 of them had thoughts right away, and off we went. And we were on our way after that. And I knew then that they felt comfortable and secure, and they believed this is going to be a great way to manage the business. And no matter what happened to us after that, GM bankruptcy, Chrysler bankruptcy, the economic slowdown, the tsunamis around the world where part of our productions are underwater, no matter what happened to us, that we are going to work together to turn the reds, the yellows, the greens, and deliver that compelling vision.
Well, I love that story so much because it shows the being of leadership, the doing of leadership, and then with focusing on the positive and how we choose. to engage in that situation has a profound impact, because I'm sure we can imagine different ways in which different from the two large men, I love that, coming in to take the person. What impact would that have moving forward?
And remember that Henry Ford quote.
Right.
If you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. See, we're not saying when we think we can, meaning that we can solve every problem. It means that we're going to work on it, and we're going to work on it until we have a solution, or we're going to have a better plan. So there's no going backwards. There's no failure. It's all positive, but you got to approach it in a positive way.
I love it. Well, thank you. That's such a rich discussion. I love everything that you're sharing, Alan. And so let's move to the next leadership quality, which is around meaning and purpose. So would love to hear from you in terms of what role that leadership quality has.
So let's go back. Let's go back to the principles and practices. I love this, being able to move so easily. That's like the data sets us free here. So look at the compelling vision, the comprehensive strategy, relentless implementation. So we all want to make a difference, and we want to contribute to something that's important, and we want to feel the satisfaction of meaningful accomplishment. We're human beings, and so the most important thing we do in an organization, profit, nonprofit, the government, whatever, is what is that compelling vision of what we're about. And it's so important to make it understandable and simple, and that the strategy then and the implementation plan is going to deliver that. And I always think of that management story of a person's walking along, and he comes up to this construction site, and there's a number of bricklayers making this building, and he says to the first bricklayer, "What are you doing?" And the bricklayer said, "Well, I'm working for a living." And he goes to the second bricklayer and he says, "So what are you doing?" And he said, "I am a bricklayer, and I'm working on being the best bricklayer I can be." And he goes to the third bricklayer. He says, "What are you working on?" And the third bricklayer says, "I'm building a cathedral." Everybody in that organization, you want everybody to feel, because it's correct, that they are a part of building a cathedral. So that compelling vision is what starts it all. It's probably the most important thing. And you watch everybody today, they're all looking for where they want to align their talents and their leadership qualities to build a cathedral and make a difference for the greater good.
Well, and I love that. And to me, what a beautiful operationalization of meaning and purpose, of like PGA, profitable growth for all. How can we not feel a part of an organization, and that we're not working together when it benefits everybody? I love that. And then the one plan, so that we are all aligned. So it's not just relegated to certain individuals, privileged position, whatever it is. We're all a part of this. So I just, again, for me, I love that integration of, and how it touches on every core aspect, again, of the being of leadership and then the doing.
Well, and then back to the synergy of all of these leadership qualities. I mean, they all being aware of all of those and how it works. And I think that's back to the awareness thing too. You're aware of this all the time, because it's really important. But the process of working together, you can't get away from it. I mean, everybody's seeing it, you're seeing it. So it's a wonderful, wonderful discipline process to allow you to grow, continue to grow your leadership capabilities.
Absolutely. It's, I love this. This is so great. Well, let's talk next about the leadership quality, empathy, and certainly gets a lot of attention. And so would love love to get your insight on this, Alan.
So you can see how empathy is just foundational. Everybody that's around the table, everybody you're working with, all of the stakeholders, understanding their point of view and including it. Remember, all of the stakeholders are actually represented on the leadership team. So whether you're the customers, whether you're suppliers, you have leadership team members that are representing your interests and your thoughts and your feedback. And so this empathy means seeking to understand before you seek to be understood, really listening to them, asking questions for clarification from their point of view is so powerful, because their contribution is so important to the collective goals of the organization that's going to create value for all the stakeholders. So not only in business, I mean, all of these, doesn't it seem like they're kind of like about living? Because we're all leaders. We're all leaders. Everybody is watching us. Everybody is in our life is watching us. And to get a chance to demonstrate and be and do these leadership qualities, all synergistically, phenomenal. Well, that's what got us to this wonderful meeting, Craig, is that book and those wonderful leadership qualities.
Well, and thank you. Yes, and it's just been a joyous conversation ever since. And for me, talking about the self-awareness, awareness of self, and then awareness of others, being the empathy, and adding those additional. So in my latest book, thinking of additional qualities and for leaders to bring to the table. And so I'd love to get your perspective on mindset. So what role does mindset play as a leader, how it affects us in terms of the working together principles, practices, and management system?
Absolutely. So one, there are a lot of mindsets, and there's a lot of great work on it. And you are really doing a good job of helping everybody understand that. And at the most fundamental level, the one that I'd like to address is the mindset about fixed and versus growth. And what we mean by that is that many people get to the place where they're comfortable with where they are. And so it's kind of a bigger deal for them to handle change and grow, because grow is change, or be perceived as change. And so a growth mindset means that you know you are where you are. You're always looking, using all of these other qualities about you're part of an organization that's growing. It's managing change. It's incorporated all the things that are changing into the business plan, picking out the things that help you further develop the plan, and mitigating the ones that are risk. And so that mindset is absolutely key. And if somehow you can't get comfortable with that, this is a system that makes everybody comfortable, because not only you're not by yourself now, you're with the entire team, and that entire team is continuously growing every part of the plan, the product, the process, the people, and the business. And so becoming self-aware and learning about that mindset and what that means is really, really important. Plus, you have all your colleagues, because your joint collective objective is to grow the business. And it's back to Henry Ford again. You think you can, you think you can't. You're probably right.
Well, and I'd love to get your take on, because you talk about the growth versus fixed mindset, and any advice for how we can either coach ourselves or coach others out of that fixed mindset into the growth space.
If you go to the next chart, to the let's go to the business plan. Yeah, the management system. So again, my thought about that is just start the working together process, because then you're part of it, and you don't have to do anything. So, because imagine that when you're included in the leadership team, and so you look down all of those leadership qualities, and now you're working on them. They're part of your personal development with stakeholder-centered coaching, and then look at be cohesive on it. Well, and you have all those behaviors all clear, and there you're invited to a meeting on the creating value roadmap, where you're now fine-tuning and further looking at the business environment to improve the value creation roadmap. And so again, you're pulled in, and you don't have to do anything. No matter what your mindset was, your mindset is becoming growth. And then you go to the business plan review, holy cow, talk about growth. And because you're not only solving today's problem, but you're creating the better plan. So you're growing. So I think what happens is that this management system creates an environment that it nurtures and enables everybody to move from wherever they are. And it's not like you're either fixed or your growth. Depends on what part of you and your thinking, but it brings you completely as a person into a growth mindset, which you use in your personal life, your family life, your community life. This moves you to a growth and a positive growth mindset and a plan on how to do it.
What a powerful answer, and I love how you're framing it, Alan, about this creates the system to provide us with a constant state. As you said, you can't escape it. This is just part of how you are every day and what the expectations are of the people around you. I think that's so powerful in terms of reinforcing that leadership quality into leadership practice.
And Craig, we can't say this enough. It's so satisfying and it's so fun. I mean, I've missed in 45 years, I bet I've missed 10 business plan reviews. I don't care where I am around the world. All I can do is just make a call. Plus, I can't stand not to watch all the colors changing with everybody else. I mean, it's so fun. And whether it's a new red or whether red's going to yellow or a green. And so without even knowing it, with this wonderful product and services you're creating that's going to serve everybody, without knowing it, you are operating this way and you're looking forward to it and you're feeling that satisfaction of being full of accomplishment. And so it happens really fast to you. People tell me once they're in this environment, I don't care which airplane program was or Boeing or Ford, is that when they leave to do something else, they'll never go back on the environment. Because once you feel what it's like to operate in the light and how nice and warm it is in the light and how you're enjoying doing it, you'll never settle to go back. You'll move on if you can't find that in your next environment.
Well, and what I love is that the working together principles, practices, and management system are all about maximizing human potential of everybody that's there. And I just, it's an amazing
Absolutely.
It's so great framework. I want to talk a little bit about emotions, because and we've touched on these throughout in different ways where they can serve us. And then, so would love to hear your thoughts, Alan, in terms of the leadership quality of mastering our emotions.
Okay, so for all of our wonderful participants, this is really a fun one. Notice there it says mindset, emotions, and resilience. Now, I did not see these until I met Craig. And so let's go back to the principles and practices, Craig. Let's go over on the right-hand side and go down to the next one from the bottom. I'll be darned. Emotional resilience. Craig, we might have been separated at birth. Look at that. And there's the answer. There's the answer. This whole process and the behaviors are so that your emotions are a positive thing. And they're not going to be wild and crazy because you're not by yourself. You're never going to feel alone. You're doing your part of it. You get to share how it's going. When you put a red on one of your elements you're planning, that doesn't mean you're red. That means the item's red. You're the solution. And everybody else working with you is the solution. And so keeping your emotions steady and strong and positive and can do, and you don't have these emotional roller coasters because you're doing this as a team and everybody's contributing and you're not alone. And so it's not so much resilience now. It's not like coming back from a defeat. We expected the unexpected and we expected to deal with it. So now the resilience, you're feeling it's a positive all the time. People then just trust the process, go right back up, make sure we're following all these 5 elements. And so one thing that I'm asked a lot, Craig, is how do you sleep at night? I mean, you're on these airplane programs, you're leading Boeing, you're leading Ford, all these things are going on, and I get it, reds, yellows, greens, and reds and yellows. And how do you sleep at night? And my answer is I sleep really well. I mean, I just had a business plan review. I'm with everybody on the team. Everybody knows everything now. The ones that need special attention, they're on that meetings list now. So the best thing I can do after facilitating this meeting and helping coach and everybody participating is go home and get some sleep so I can come back healthy, motivated, strong, with a positive attitude to keep contributing. And so I love it that you put those two words together, because they are perfect together.
Well, and what I love, I want to echo something you just shared, because I think this is such a powerful insight, is that you said you're not red, the item is red. And that can be back to humility as well, in terms of that impact and managing our, so important to separate. And here's the other piece that I love that you're talking about, Alan, in terms of the research on resilience. So what does resilience represent? Our ability to bounce back from challenging events and setbacks. Well, what the working together management system principles, that, I mean, talk about, and then how do we build our resilience to have successful events that happen when we can overcome setback? So what a beautiful, like, once again, you can't escape it, that this is a system that is designed to maximize your resilience.
That's really good.
Emotional resiliency.
That's going to be, people are going to love that part of your new book, because it just takes all the stress away. You're not by yourself. You're not alone. You're not having to bounce back. No, this is the plan. The plan is the expected, unexpected, expected, deal with it. And you got all the talent helping you do that. So it's not as stressful. The only stressful thing is, do you know you're part of the plan and the status? Well, no kidding. That's what we want you to, that's why we asked you to join the team. That's why you're world class at it. And because that's the most important thing that you can bring. Along with the authenticity, they also create an environment where everything is transparent and it's okay. And you're okay. Matter of fact, you're better than okay, because you brought that red item.
Well, and it's so amazing. It's just so many light bulbs, because in the resilience research, again, it's around resources. We're stressed when we're under-resourced. Well, what does the working together principles, practices, management system provide? Resources. And what type of resources? A process to go through to think about the next steps, and what do we need to do? What actions do we need to take? And then provide the people that are there to support you as you work through. Like, it's Absolutely. It's so dynamite. I'm, as you can tell, very excited.
You should be.
Well, we've just talked about emotion and resilience, emotional resilience. I love to hear your perspective on strengths.
Well, I think it's really important that you have included that in the qualities, because I never think of strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. I think of talent, and then developing our talent, because we all have talent, and we have talent that we get different ways, some of which we've further developed it. But the point is that we all have talents. And back to the growth again, is making use of those talents and enhancing those talents. So let's go to the management system on the next chart, and look down there at the lifelong learning and continuous improvement. And then look right above it at the performance management and stakeholder-centered coaching. And I think most people are familiar with this, but the whole idea of stakeholder-centered coaching, think if you're on a team, is that we are committed to lifelong learning and continuous improvement. And in business, in any organization, also into individual growth as well as collective growth. And that's a skill too. And so we talk to all the stakeholders. We continually ask them, along with normal performance management, what can we do to contribute even more individually and collectively? And then we get to decide which one of those 2 or 3 things, and people do it in a very positive way because they love being asked. And so we pick 2 or so. And so for this next 6 months or next year, We tell everybody then what the two are that we chose. And we ask them, we thank them for suggesting it. And we also thank them for being supportive as we go forward. So can you imagine how neat it is that, let's say that you wanted to, somebody said, would you please stop? I mean, I think it'd be really helpful if you would move away from rhetorical questions, because it kind of comes across like you already know the answer. You want to show everybody that you know it. And you say this in a nice way. And so you might want to think about moving away from that. And then they do, but then they ask one because they've been doing that for a long time. And so you go see them privately or whatever, look for a nice moment and say, do you remember, what happened today? Can you imagine how powerful that is for both people, that you can share it? And the person that's made a commitment to move away from that for the good of themselves and the team, getting somebody to tell them back to the self-awareness now, you just got another shot of self-awareness. But you're the leader of your growth with your help from your colleagues.
It's such an amazing example, and exactly, and to think about the benefits of that exchange for everybody involved, and that awareness that comes with it is absolutely extraordinary. And even to think about as well, outside of the confines of this system and outside of these practices and principles, how many missed opportunities there may be to have that discussion.
Well, and see, the other thing about that, to build on what you said, is it's organized and it's disciplined. This is not haphazard. Right. If you're on the leadership team, you have an improvement plan. Doesn't mean you're a red. That means you're continuous improvement, lifelong learning, and continuous improvement. Talk about getting away from the fixed to the growth. See, they're all related, aren't they? Yeah. Aren't they all related? So you got a mindset of growth. You have a process to grow. You have a process to include everybody, so it's the right kind of growth, because you get the chance to make the decision on which ones. You think about the link with the rest of them, humility. Think about how you would say to give the feedback. Even though you've been asked for feedback, you'd be so thoughtful about their dignity. You're not trying to level them, and you have facts and data. You aren't saying, this is what I think. No, you talked about the case that you just looked at and say, you might want to think about this, because I know you're moving in this direction. You know how fast somebody would move on that?
Right.
So all of them, it's not like you have to memorize them all, but by moving into understanding leadership qualities, all of them, you start getting all the synergy of using them together.
Well, and it's just such a joy to talk to you about these qualities and about the workplace, the working together principles, practices, management system, because you think about, I love that everybody has a development plan. And we're all in this, so include everybody. I think that's so powerful an idea. And practice.
Try it at home.
Right, yes, absolutely, yes.
Say to your significant other, honey, I'd like to be the best husband or wife I could possibly be. I'd like your thoughts on maybe 2 or 3 things that I could do, maybe a different way or a better way. And now, don't ask them if you don't want to know.
That's right.
Another great one is say to your kids, I really want to be the best dad I could be. Are there a couple of things that I could do a little bit differently, or I mean, at first they'll look at you like, really? Are you really asking? Because no one asked. And then they'll think about it. And if you say that, you really mean it, because it says down here, we want people that are lifelong learning, continuous improvement. So it applies everywhere in your life. This is not about Boeing or Ford. This is about you as a person growing and serving.
Well, it's so interesting you say that, because to share a personal, these were, when I wrote within Do Good to Lead Well, as well as a time to, these were qualities that I saw transcending. And I love that you're making that point, Alan, in terms of that, its applicability. These apply everywhere, in every facet,
Absolutely.
And I want to speak with you as well about, so the next leadership quality on the list is around receiving feedback. And I know this is, as you've talked about, embedded into the system and principles and practices. So would love to get your perspective on that.
Well, so think about what we've just been talking about And let's go to the first chart on principles and practices. Look up everyone knows the plan, the status, and the areas of special attention. Talk about feedback. Feed forward, feed back, feed everywhere. I mean, you have all this data flowing. And so, because you need the feedback, because that's part of the process, because you can't manage a secret and you want to move forward together. Okay, now go to the management system. Now look at the feedback in here.
Right.
And it's just built into it. You don't have to agonize sitting in your office or your workstation or whatever and wonder about providing feedback or getting feedback. That's part of the process of working together. And think about on the right-hand side, like we talked about on the leadership team, by definition, you're benefiting from feedback. And so you want to, and also just now, here's a good example. So you say to the team, I would like to continue to improve my leadership effectiveness. And so what are a couple of things on my leadership qualities that would enhance my performance in your eyes, individually or collectively? And so they tell you, and then you select two. They didn't select them. You get to decide. Right. First thing you say is thank you. Yeah, and I bet you'll end up thinking about them. And you get to decide. And you're going to say thank you. I'm going to work on these two. And they know that. Now, think how wonderful the feedback is. It's not a surprise. You asked for it. It's part of the system. If I'm going to be part of this working together, then that's the kind of person I have to be and how I do. And so it's not, feedback now is a wonderful thing. It's like, thank you. Thank you. And you get to decide.
Right. Well, I love that point, the thanking. So back to being that civility, thanking someone for their input and the humility. I'm open to hearing your perspective and what I have to say. And I love what you're sharing as well about and then we get to decide what to do with that feedback.
So Craig, I think you think all these management qualities are all related, and they support each other, and there's a lot of synergy. And if you start including more and more of them with a reliable process of how to meet together and how to treat each other, I think that it's going to serve you really well.
This is absolutely amazing. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And want to talk, and one point that you raised earlier, which I thought, I love that you clarified the difficult conversations. And I've been thinking as we've been chatting throughout around that. So can you talk a little bit around the difficult conversation side of the equation?
Well, I've always loved this one because I know, and you know, and we all know that the vast majority of people think that to talk to somebody about their continuous improvement opportunities and give them not only just going forward, but also giving them feedback, that can seem hard to them. It's a difficult conversation because sometimes it is, because the people receiving the feedback, they don't want the feedback. They're back to the growth thing. They're in a fixed mindset. And well, the neatest thing, as opposed to growth, the neatest thing about this system again is that those conversations are built into it, and it's not ambiguous or it's clear. It's clear because you've agreed on these principles and practices and the management system, and so they're on a piece of paper. You've talked about them. You know what these words mean, and so when you're getting feedback, it's following this process. People are not trying to be mean. They're not stepping outside their boundary. They have facts and data. They'll show you those principles and practices. I do it. I show them. So when I walk up to say, you might want to think about this behavior because it's degrading our working together culture. It's not something that I haven't seen or everybody else hasn't seen or they haven't seen. And if they haven't seen it, they can ask a question about it. And you have a real situation to explain to them. Well, the way you're yelling at that person, do you think that's fits this working together? I don't think so. Did you look in their eyes? Did you see they can't even look at you anymore? So it's not a difficult conversation. It's a fantastic conversation. It's a wonderful conversation. It's like another one where the person ends up saying is, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. Thanks for pointing that out, because I had shared that I want to move in this direction. And so every one of those conversations develops the relationship even more. But again, it's really clear what we're trying to accomplish. And again, if it doesn't work, I have not ever seen it not work. It maybe the first couple, but once you get into this is a rhythm, remember, you're together every week. That's why you need to have the entire team. That's why you need to include all the stakeholders, because you want to bring everybody along, everybody on this growth plan. And they're fun conversations. Now, do you want to say it in a civil way? Do you want to do it with empathy? Do you want to do it with humility? Do you want to respect their dignity? Absolutely. But you have something also valuable to offer them. And remember, they were part of it. They're the ones that decided this is where I wanted to go.
Well, and I love that so much, what you're talking about, Alan, in terms of that. Well, it's making it a regular, these are critical conversations, and we have them, and then we have the system to support them, and we get in the reps to build our capability within those conversations. And it's such a, I love that point that you're saying. So these don't have to be difficult. They're not difficult, because we have all the ingredients we need to be able to move through them, and we understand we are working together.
Well, and Craig, to your point, you're doing this regularly. You know, we have our performance managements every 6 months, and we actually would do the performance managements for all the top 400 leaders as a leadership team. And so everybody knows everything, because they do anyway. And so I remember when I first joined, we would I said, we're going to look at not only on the performance management, we're going to look at not only your technical functional contribution, but also your working together skills. So made a plot. And so on the vertical axis is your technical contribution and your skills. And then to the right is your working together skills. So think of it as just 4 boxes. And so what we want, our goal is that everybody moves from wherever they are up and to the right. They keep enhancing their technical skills, lifelong learning, continuous improvement, and they keep enhancing their working together skills, because it's never over. We're never done. And so when we did the first performance managements together for everybody, including ourselves, there were a few people that were way down here on the working together, but they're way up here on the functional skills. And I said to the team, why is this person in that situation that they're in? And the answer came back, we've talked to them about working together, and they just the way they are, they think their technical contribution is the most important thing. We can't get them to help them appreciate the value of being able to work together closely. And so they just haven't decided to change. So I said, so here's what we're going to do. We have the behaviors now for working together right here. So we're going to give it to everybody. And we're going to say, we're going to evaluate these every 6 months. And we're going to provide our thoughts to you. And you get to decide what you want to do. But if after 2 periods of evaluation, you aren't moving up to the right, you are making a decision to move on. Now you can ask us for help. We want to help you. We love your skills, but we really need this working together. See, in the behind this, Craig, is a really important assumption. No one is so important on their technical contribution that they can degrade the working together. Because this whole thing is about people, real live people working together to create value for all the stakeholders in the greater good. And any one person that isn't moving in this direction on the working together, it's like poison in an organization, because it's the synergy. It's all of us together that's going to make this happen. And so that's a really important conversation to have with everybody. And you can guys decide. Remember, 85% of the time, immediately, now that they had clear expectations on the behaviors, and they had people helping them, immediately they start moving up 85% of the time. Isn't that cool?
That's so cool. And so I love so much of what you're talking about. And again, to reiterate a key point you made, that you're telling the other individual, you are making a choice to move on. I think that's such a, because I mean, and I love your perspective. How many organizations will then take action and or move some, and then you're having this open, honest, safe conversation about, well, here's where we are, and I love facts and data, right? And here's where we are, and here's where we need to be, and this is where we need to see you moving, and you have some time, and then if not, we will assume you've made a decision.
Well, and it's true, they are.
Right.
And also, remember, this is a collective input to you.
Right.
If you want to go talk to all of us because you don't believe that we're right, we'll gladly share that with you in a very humane, civil way, and we'll have examples for you. And so we're here to help you grow, and we're here wanting others' help to grow. So, Craig, thank you. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Alan. This is well, and I think about with the example you just shared, how many leaders struggle with, well, if I've got someone with high technical expertise, competence, and the consequences. And I love how you frame it about, well, the costs. When we look at this as working together, there's no one individual that supersedes all of us collectively in what we can achieve with each other. I love that.
So to bring that home, I'll just use one little portion of compensation. And let's just use the example of a bonus. And a lot of companies use bonuses in the near term. They also use stock options, a restricted stock for the long term, because you want everybody thinking near term, but at every decision, you want to be thinking about what does that mean to the long term. And so the way I've always used a bonus is that you have a base bonus that kind of represents your responsibility and your accountability, your contribution in the organization. Because everybody is kind of in a different place about how, what their influence is. And so you want to capture that fundamentally. So here's your bonus, here's the bonus amount, which is usually a percent of your salary. And then there are two factors that you multiply that against to decide a bonus. And their factors multiply against each other. So the first one is, how did the company do? You're part of the company. So how did we do on all those measures that we just showed? Okay, let's go to number this management system chart. Okay, let's go to the left-hand side. So how did we do? That bar there. So we keep track of that all through the year, and we have a diamond that's moving up and down. That's the forecast. And so how did we do? Okay, and then say from 0 to 200%, how do we do? So we're somewhere along the line, we either met it, we were short or not. So that factor could be 0 to 2, let's say. That'll multiply times the base. Then the next one is how did you do? Oh, and by the way, we're going to look at two pieces of that. One is your technical contribution, but the other is your working together contribution. And we'll use a factor of 0 to 2 again. Now you can do really well if the company does well, if you do well technically, that assessment, and which included you in assessment, and your working together skills, that assessment. Isn't that interesting that you could get 0 if any one of those is 0?
Right. That's so amazing. I love
now, can you imagine, and you're having a conversation, it's not a surprise. You're having a conversation about this. It's the most liberating thing that you can, and it turns into real value for you and the rest of the stakeholders, because it means all the stakeholders are all together, and you know exactly. Talk about a motivation to grow, to continuously improve through your life. Isn't that cool?
It's super cool, and it's as you say, and what I love as well is that how many discussions do you hear with people when it comes to performance, when it comes to compensation, saying, well, this is a surprise, or where did this come from? And what I love is that you have an ongoing record. It isn't like, gee, I wonder where. Here it is all the time. I
And
love what you shared earlier. You can't escape it.
and think about how seriously you would take it, because to your point
Right.
earlier, it's your decision. It really is your decision. I can't tell you what to do or make you do it or whatever, but here are the expectations of the working together management system, both the behaviors and the process. You think people are going to miss a meeting? Can you imagine a person in the business plan review, they shared a red item and they come back a week later and they say, well, the hell with all of you. I didn't have time to work on this red item. Can you imagine the conversations everybody will have on the playground?
Right.
Like, really? See, they're not working for me now. They're working for the company. Right. and the customers and everything they were doing on that compelling vision. And think about the accountability on that team over there on the right-hand side. I mean, they're not going to let each other down. They're not doing it for me. They're doing it because they believe in that compelling vision, that strategy, and they are having so much fun finding the reds to yellows and greens and turning the reds to yellows to greens. Well, it's unbelievably effective.
Absolutely. And what I love about what we're talking about, Alan, is that it's essentially maximizing the benefits of personal empowerment while simultaneously maximizing the benefits of working together.
And the process, the management system enables both.
Right.
It's a vehicle, it's a system. That's why it's called a system. These 5 elements are a system that works together. Just like management and leadership qualities are all related. Mm-hmm. And so you want to get the value of that synergy of operating this way, of being this kind of person and operating this way. Okay.
All right. Yeah.
Authentic.
Well, yes, exactly. And I was going to say, I couldn't have planned this any better in terms of, if there was one person I would love to talk about in terms of authentic leadership, it would certainly be you. And so I'd love to hear your perspective on authentic leadership and tying all of this together, because I think it's just so powerful.
Well, what the thought that went through my head just now, Craig, was I was going to say, okay, Craig, what do you think authentic leadership is? I mean, you base everything you're doing on facts and data and research and science. So what do you think authentic leadership is?
Well, I love that it's really around when there's a synergy between who you are and how you show up in the day-to-day, whereby you are in complete alignment with your values, with what's important to you, and that you can bring that and have the impact that you desire to have on the world, both for yourself as well as the people you care about most.
Wow. Can I interview you some more? Okay. I have very little to add on that, because it's really, really cool. And I'm going to bring a couple of things that you said alive. Let's go back to the principles and practices. Okay, now, well, guys, all of them. Let's look at propose a plan, positive, find a way attitude, and respect, listen, help, and appreciate each other. Now you can see all those, right?
Right.
And if our commitment to each is to treat each other that way and operate that way, I think, I don't have a lot of science behind this, but I'm sure you do, is if I start operating that way and I keep growing that way, that whatever my values are and whatever my beliefs are going to be positively affected about operating this way. Because one, it's going to give you a lot of confidence that's really, really good and really, really helpful and really, really effective. And so and that's what I found with working together and all the participants. So what you said was the unbelievable summary of that. So you described authentic leadership is when your values, your beliefs, things you can't see, and your behaviors are aligned. Because that means you're authentic. You're not being one way for one situation or another way for another situation. And they are aligned around whatever the organization is, compelling vision, their comprehensive strategy, and relentless invitation. And what they have agreed to are the skilled and motivated, are the principles, practices, and the management system. It's all aligned around that. And you are aligned as a person, your values, your beliefs, and your behaviors. And the last thing I'd say about that is, it is so refreshing and it's so healthy, because you're not thinking all the time about how you have to be and do. To your point, to this whole working together, is this is the way we do it. This is what makes it happen. And it's all the same. So you get to be and do who you really are, which delivers this kind of working together performance.
Well, this has just been an amazing conversation, Alan, and thank you so much. The time has flown by, and you are a masterclass in authentic leadership. So just want to take a moment to say how impactful this has been. It's been enjoyable, engaging, thought-provoking. There are ideas you may not see all the things in the book that were outlined on the slide. You might, especially around difficult conversations as a result of this conversation. So Alan, thank you so much for who you are, your leadership, your service. It's just exemplary. And any final words before we close off today?
Well, I feel the same way, Craig. And I just, I admire and I appreciate your purpose of helping everybody understand this, especially the science behind it, because you're talking about things that are about human beings and working together and making a difference and feeling the satisfaction of meaningful accomplishments. And so these are really important leadership qualities that enhance that. And you're dedicated your life to uncovering them, understanding them. I think what I'm looking forward to, Craig, is watching you pull these together even more, the synergy of it. Because there's so many people that write about individual pieces, and what we know, what we've talked about is pulling them together. And then in addition to that is, what's the process? What's the system that enables that and nurtures that? Because it's one thing about talking about each of these qualities, but the thing that makes it work is when it's part of a system on which you operate day in and day out. And I think that's where your work is going to continue to help. And I can see you even writing more about that. And from my point of view, I'm honored to be a person that you wanted to talk to about it.
Well, the pleasure's been all mine, Alan, and again, have been inspired in terms of your observations and what you've shared this morning. I know everybody who's watching this has taken so much out of it and has provided a system and important questions to reflect on as we are working together in whatever relationships that we are. I think it's so powerful. So thank you again for your time. And this has been an absolute honor. Take care, everybody, and look forward to continuing the conversation. Bye for now.
Thank you, Craig. And thank you all.